Welcome back to ADSW Live. It is day 4 of Abu Dhabi Sustainability Week, and we are taking a look at the role of youth and innovation along the pathway to COP28. Abdullah Mohammed Al-Rumaythi is the Director of Environmental Policies and Regulation and Climate Change at the Environment Agency in Abu Dhabi. Among many other roles, Abdullah is a member of the UN's Sustainable Development Goals Council for Climate Action and Abu Dhabi's Climate Change Task Force. And he's also a senior advisor to COP28 negotiations. Well, he stopped by the studio yesterday and I asked him about the special relationship between the Environment Agency and COP. What has the EAD's relationship been with the COP meetings? How would you describe it?
Well, Environment Agency Abu Dhabi played a big role, actually, an active role when it comes to COP meetings and UNFCCCs, as it was the focal point of the Kyoto Protocol mechanism. So we have a good history and a very positive history as well, because we've submitted over 20 projects. Mega projects. So the main projects that we've submitted was actually one of the mega projects was Shams 1 and Inter Alia. And actually it's very close, we're working very closely with also the national level, supporting the COP efforts, participating in all COPs, supporting the negotiations, supporting the efforts, showing UAE's case studies during the COPs.
But look, let's go back in time very, very slightly to COP27, because one of the big achievements was that deal establishing a loss and damage fund. Now, from your perspective, why was it such an important development, not just for Abu Dhabi, but also for the Environment Agency?
Indeed, actually, a loss and damage fund is important for all parties. It's important for the globe itself. Parties, they need loss and damage fund. They need this type of support and they need access to it. So basically what we are doing right now here, we're happy to have moving forward loss and damage fund from COP27 to COP28, creating the transitional committee, which will hold the first meeting in March, and looking forward actually to have a very successful fund which will serve the nation in the upcoming years.
Now, there were a number of important projects that were also highlighted at the COP27, and they really were connected to nature-based solutions to mitigate the impact of climate change. Can you tell me about the ones that you're particularly excited about? Are there ones which really stand out in your mind?
Well, I think I'm excited about everything. Well, very close to my heart is that when it comes to natural-based solutions, and we are in Abu Dhabi, which is actually they invested more in the natural-based solutions, such as mangrove. And mangrove plantation is one of the most important projects that we are doing. It's been one of the outcomes that came from the carbon study, the blue carbon study. And we are proud also to have such a plant within our region, because it's capturing the carbon. It's kind of a zinc plantation to reduce the emissions. So yes, mangrove plantation, and we're planting more and more this year and the upcoming years as well.
Unstoppable. But also as well, whenever we talk about environmental issues, we're always talking about targets as well. And certainly the UAE has been setting some very ambitious targets for 2050. So where is EAD focusing its efforts to actually help the Emirates meet those targets?
Indeed. So Environment Agency Abu Dhabi is the custodian of climate change when it comes to Abu Dhabi level. So in November 2020, actually, we've established a new task force among 28 entities. So we believe in coordination, joining efforts, and building the bridge. So basically, we are working very hard not to only achieve the target in a local level, as well as to support the national level targets. Environment Agency in Abu Dhabi also set plan strategies to achieve their targets. During that time, we focus more and dig deep more in the measurements. So we set the actions. We discuss with our partner how we can improve the processes smoothly, and also participating and coordinating with the federal entities, the national level, to ensure that we have full alignment to achieve our targets. Last year, during Expo, His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid announced actually the net zero strategy.
So it's also possible you could actually beat that 2050 target. You may actually meet those deadlines beforehand.
Yes, we're trying to work hard with, in coordination with our partners. As well, we count in private sectors. So it's very unique things about us. It's not only limiting for government. We are actually working closely with our private entities, NGOs, because everyone has to play their role when it comes to climate.
Well, good luck on that, okay? And also congratulations for COP28, okay? I'm sure we'll see you there. Aisha Al-Aidarous is head of business at Clean Energy, part of the clean energy powerhouse Masdar. Well, she stopped by our ADSW Live studio yesterday afternoon, and I asked her what motivated her to be part of Masdar's campaign for a global transition to clean energy.
Masdar will continue to do what it does best as a developer and investor of renewable energy. So we will continue to focus on what we do best. We will continue to focus on large-scale projects as well as small to medium-sized projects, be it solar, be it wind, waste to energy, energy storage. We'll continue to do that. But what's interesting is that what's new for Masdar on its radar is this attention on green hydrogen. So this is one of the key energy sources that we're actively seeking. We're looking at the potential of adding green hydrogen as part of the energy mix, and we're happy to explore what Masdar can do as a developer and investor in that area.
It sounds like as if you've got a very agile company which is able to take on these areas, in actual fact leading the way for others to follow.
We've always been the renegades, so we've always done what's not expected in a traditional oil and gas industry. So we've been doing it for 16 years. So even when the world is skeptical, we still persevered. And even when the technologies were not very developed, we continue to explore and we continue to invest. And 16 years down the line, Masdar is in over 40 countries and 6 continents. Our overall capacity is over 30 gigawatts. Our total investment size is $30 billion US. And what we do for the environment and UAE's commitment to the climate change is something that's quite remarkable, and we continue to be committed to it. Moving forward, Masdar continues to have very ambitious plans. We intend to grow as a powerhouse with the new shareholders on board. So not only Mubadala, but also ADNOC and Taqa. And we have very ambitious targets. We want to grow to 100 gigawatts. We want for renewable energy. And for green hydrogen, we are aiming to have 100 million tons worth of green hydrogen in our projects moving forward.
It's quite a journey, and I wish you well on that, but I'm sure that you'll get there. But given everything that you're doing now and what you plan to do for the future, why do you think that events like ADSW are so important, not just for Masdar, but also to ensure that this dialogue and this desire to bring about change actually happen if we're going to meet that zero carbon agenda?
I think Abu Dhabi Sustainability Week and its 15th edition is a testament that Masdar, as its host, is not only committed to translating the strategies of the UAE, but also is able to talk to all the important stakeholders, be it heads of states, decision makers, the business community, as well as society representatives. I was last night in an event for IRENA, Women in Diplomacy, and they emphasized the importance of society representation, be it in women or youth, and Masdar does that. So we know how to bring people together and to look at policy, to look at ideas, to look at thoughts and make it happen. I think this is one of the key things that Masdar has proved over the years. We translate what's on paper. We translate in what's in terms of strategies and targets, and we're able to translate that into actionable outcomes, be it in terms of the climate change mitigation or committing to renewable energy projects and investments.
Okay, look, there's plenty more to talk about, but sadly time is the enemy. But look, we've got a really good idea about what Masdar is doing, where it's going, and I'm sure that when we talk to you again, perhaps next year or the year after, who knows, those numbers will be even bigger than what you forecast. But Aisha, thank you so much for joining us. That was Aisha Al-Aidarus, and she is the Head of Business Support Clean Energy for Masdar. Abigail Kima is a youth climate activist from Kenya. She's also an expert on clean energy and currently serves as the Africa Youth Lead for the Marine Arctic Peace Sanctuary. What's really remarkable is that she's only 24 years of age. Abigail is also the producer and host of Hali Hewa, a popular podcast featuring African climate stories, and she now joins me in the studio. It's good to see you. Now, Hali Hewa, that's my first piece of Swahili. Did I pronounce it correctly?
Yes, you did.
Fantastic. So I'm a fluent Swahili speaker now. But look, let's start with that conversation about the podcast. That title, what exactly does it mean? And how did it come about? What's the story behind it?
So Hali Hewa, which is, I shortened it, it's supposed to be Hali Hewa, is Swahili for climate. So it's a name that is shared for climate and weather, which means for a long time we actually didn't have a word in Swahili for climate change. The story about this name was after COP26, which I attended for the first time. I felt like I was a bit lost and there wasn't a space for me to actually contribute and bring my voice from Africa to the world to, share our own lived experiences of the climate crisis. So when I went back home, I wanted to do a Road to COP27, but by January there are hundreds of Road to COP27 initiatives, and that's why I went for something that would be relatable to the people I wanted to speak to, especially from Kenya, from the Eastern African region and Africa in general, because we know the African Union adopted Swahili as one of its official languages, so it was important to have conversations in a language and a name that is relatable to the people I want to reach.
But the key thing is that this podcast is allowing Africa's voice to be heard. Now, I referenced in the introduction the Marine Arctic Peace Sanctuary. What is it and why do you value it personally?
So Marine Arctic Peace Sanctuary is basically a campaign that is aimed at protecting the Arctic sea ice. I know it's strange that I come from Kenya, which is completely far from the Arctic sea ice, but then it also stems from the place of interconnectedness, where one action on one part of the world causes a ripple effect on another, and it's evident that climate change is causing the melting of the ice caps, which is directly affecting our communities back at home. We have Mozambique experiencing cyclones on a yearly basis. We have communities experiencing floods out of such impacts of climate change. So my passion towards it was that I have seen firsthand the impacts of climate change within my community and the countries around Kenya as well. And so it was important to raise our voice and show that in as much as we are far, we are actually interconnected, and that you have to be cautious with what you do because it's affecting people and communities in another part of the world.
Fascinating is that just looking at the work that you've been doing, although you are billed as a youth activist, your message is, hang on a minute, this isn't just a young person's problem, it's also an older person's issue as well. So how are you getting older people on board that they don't feel estranged from the activism which is associated with young people?
So I find it strange when people associate activism with young people only, yet we have activists who are not necessarily young people. And personally, I decided to start this journey out of the inspiration from Wangari Maathai. She was definitely not a young person when she started speaking about environmental conservation, and it came at a time when, we were still living in a very patriarchal society. Nobody had information about what conservation is, why there's an importance of protecting forests in Kenya. And so seeing that she was a woman who had to beat all odds to be who she was quite inspirational for me. And so in these conversations, I think there is nothing that is different. If anything, young people are a mirror to older people where they get to see the places where they failed, where they get to see the impacts of their actions. And so having a conversation that bringing all of us together from different generations ensures that we get different intergenerational viewpoints when it comes to these issues. And I think it's important to have conversations together because our experiences are the same. I mean, we live in the same world. It's not like older people live in a different place. So it's important that, we have these conversations that build us and helps us learn from people who came before us, and so we see what we should do differently that they didn't do before.
As an older person, I find that message incredibly reassuring. But Abigail Kima, thank you so much for joining us here in the studio. Abigail Kima is a youth climate activist from Kenya, a person to watch, a very powerful voice. Well, we're almost out of time, but we're going to leave you with this one inspiring quote of the day. Well, during his opening address, COP28 UAE President-designate Dr. Sultan Al Jaber shared this quote from His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan, who's the President of the United Arab Emirates. It was in 2015 that His Highness said, and I quote, "There will be a time when we load the last barrel of oil, and if our plans and investments today are right, it will be a moment for celebration." Well, over the last 15 years, the UAE has invested a total of $50 billion in renewable energy and clean tech globally. And the government plans to invest another $50 billion in the years ahead. Well, that's all we've got time for today on ADSW Live. I hope you found today's programme interesting, insightful, and maybe even inspiring. For more of the action here at Abu Dhabi Sustainability Week, join us here all week and check us out on social media. You'll see the handles now on your screen. And we'll be back tomorrow for another show where we'll be taking a look at decarbonisation and green hydrogen. We'll see you then.